Many artists are starving.
I sweat paint colors like no one's business. I was old and tired and needed everything.
What year was it?
That was 2007.
The world is falling apart.
I had no idea what I was doing. You're going to lose a deal. I said, well, that's fine.
Tell me about the failures.
Yeah, I haven't had any.
No failures at all. Every building we touch, we leave better than we found.
I can't be the low-cost provider. What have I got? I've just got cheap space.
Right.
So what?
Buying it with no money out of pocket, that's an art that I subscribe to, and I love that game. Welcome to Value Add Investing Podcast. My name is Rafik Moore, and we here have Peter Remes, the CEO of First and First, on our podcast here today. A Value Add Investing Podcast is a podcast on real estate investing into value add deals. We'll have guests here that invest in real estate or help us in investing in real estate. This podcast will feature a lot of CEOs of companies like ours and many other people in the industry who will bring their different experience and outlook on value add investing, which happens to be a really good industry to really make money in real estate. So welcome to the show. Thanks for coming.
Of course,
Peter.
yeah. Rafik, great to see you.
Yeah, good.
Happy to be here.
So Peter is a very well-known developer in Minneapolis, and he's been in the industry for, 20, 30 years now?
Not quite that long.
Yeah.
More like about 15.
What's unique about Peter's expertise is actually brings an artistic flair to his buildings. All of his buildings look so amazing. They stand so differently from the rest. Can you tell us about your strategy?
Yeah, my strategy is not unlike you, I'm looking for opportunity in the industry, identify old warehouses, buildings that were built maybe in the Victorian era, 100 years ago or so, that have been fallen out of their original intention. They're probably built for manufacturing or some similar type of use. And they have been either ignored or forgotten or converted into storage, kind of a low-level use. Those are the properties I find intriguing from a value standpoint and also from a potential revision standpoint. Being able to buy those buildings, take them and sort of scramble the deck, if you will, and be able to really present them to the community in a way that looks completely different from where I started. And the process is very involved. I take basically a raw shell, and then I start applying my vision and my attributes that I infuse into a building by trying to get the right tenant mix, the right balance. I kind of curate my tenants very selectively, and then I put a lot of thought and a lot of time and resources into creating a look and a feel in the common areas and creating a vibe in the building. So when you're in a First and First building, it kind of stands alone from the rest of the inventory that's out there in the marketplace. We have a very unique approach in terms of our design and aesthetics. So when you walk in there, it's really about a physiological response. That's what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to get you to have a reaction when you walk into the building. So you walk in.
Wow reaction, right?
Yeah, when you feel something, like there's something that's going off in your neurotransmitters where you're saying to yourself, you may not know what it is, you may not know even what you're feeling, but you're feeling something and you want to be there. Your curiosity is it's uncorked and you're feeling like, wow, this is amazing, hopefully. I want to explore, I want to spend time here, I want to see what this is all about. There'll be a lot of things on the wall that you may or may not understand. There are, works of art that are engaging, intriguing, provocative, and just overall will sort of trigger some sensory activation of your senses, rather, in your brain that will keep you feeling like this is an interesting thing, what I'm experiencing.
And you'll pay 20% more than anybody else for the same square footage, or maybe double.
That's maybe. That is part of the process of just trying to build an environment that is uniquely its own environment and one that really resonates with you as an entrepreneur that might want to land there and lease space, but one that gives you the opportunity to really express yourself as an individual and creates an environment that's sticky for your staff, your employees. They want to be there. They feel it's something that they respond to, hopefully in a positive manner, and really gives them an opportunity to feel welcomed and I guess an environment that they don't want to leave. Mm-hmm. They want to be there.
What's very interesting about your approach And I've worked with a lot of artists. Unfortunately, many artists are starving. You know why?
Yeah.
Because they only use the right brain, which is artistic brain, and they don't really utilize the left brain, which is really mathematical, logical sense.
Yeah.
And when they go on their limb, and if most of the artists, except for Picasso, were so poor, broke, and so you kind of combine both the hustle of being an amazing entrepreneur with the artistic expression that makes your building so amazing. That's what I found fascinating about your approach, and I'm definitely learning a lot as we do little similar properties. Our property is not as amazing as yours, but I'm going to be taking a lot of notes, and hopefully you can collaborate in the future.
Yeah, no, that'd be exciting for sure. No, I appreciate that. We work very hard at trying to create this balance, if you will, of aesthetics and whatever you want to describe it as, an atmosphere or vibrations that you feel when you walk into the space. It's not something that we take lightly. We don't just throw things up on the wall and hope it all kind of works together. I sweat paint colors like no one's business. I will repaint a room or a wall or a common area 4 to 5 different times if I have to, before I finally get to the place where I feel it is the right match. I have been in the art world my entire life. I have a lot of relationships with artists, galleries, museums. I've served on many boards. I do understand the art world, and I know that by creating that balance, by creating that energy and that environment that is successful, it's really at that point about transformation, about you walking into a space and being able to be feeling transformed from where you once were. And that is a bigger topic, a bigger curiosity. Some people call it transcendence, some people call it transformation, but it's real. And if more developers understood it, they would pay attention to it.
I think we'll live in Barcelona if they did.
Perhaps, yeah.
Have you been?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah,
I love it.
So, question, why First and First?
First and foremost, about 12, 13 years ago, I bought a building right on the corner of First Avenue and First Street. And it's a building formerly housed ARIA, the event center, which I owned and operated. And I just felt First and First resonated. It seemed to be almost a spiritual calling, if you will. This seems to be the right fit. It just came to me one day, and I thought, why not? And we used a very talented design firm to come up with the logo. Group called Fellow, based here in Minneapolis. I highly recommend them. And that's how we got started with First and First.
So when did you start your business? And what inspired you to focus on industrial? I mean, you could have been an apartment guy. You could have been an office guy, I guess. Why warehouses?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a little bit of apartment inventory in my portfolio, a little bit of office, maybe actually quite a bit of office. Sold a bunch of that about 6 or 7 years ago. But it wasn't so much of a feeling of inspiration. It was a feeling of lack of inspiration. Where I was looking around in the marketplace, I've traveled to numerous markets, many super cities throughout the world, and I would react or be inspired by what I was seeing in the marketplace. Buildings that really had an interesting energy about them, where they were very focused on delivering something aesthetically, something very purposeful and beautiful into those buildings. And I couldn't find much of that in this market in Minneapolis. And I thought to myself, why don't I'll start by buying one in Northeast Minneapolis in the Arts District and landed on one over on the corner of Van Buren Street and 14th Street. It's about 42,000 square feet. Old warehouse. Former owner had a business in there, and he had sold the business, was now selling the building, so was old and tired and needed everything.
What year was it?
That was 2007.
Oh, perfect timing.
Yeah.
The world is falling apart.
Right, it was. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure I overpaid for it in hindsight. But anyway, that was my launch into what I'm doing now in terms of urban adaptive reuse.
Fairly recent, less than 20 years ago.
Yeah. So it was a interesting chapter. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't understand I didn't know what a cap rate was. I didn't know what rentable usable was. I didn't really understand any of that. But I did know what I wanted. I did have my sights on creating an environment or creating a building that was going to be uniquely suited to the marketplace, and struggled to get through the building or get the renovation completed, but was able to complete it and delivered it to the market. Oh gosh, 2000. I think it was around late 2008. Horrible timing, couldn't have been worse. Everything was falling apart. Had some success with leasing it, got through 2008, 9, and 10, and then was able to kind of get on stable ground and started to look at other opportunities within the marketplace. The first project, as you well know, Rafik, I'm sure, is the most difficult one. I mean, it's your learning curve.
Maybe, yeah.
The one you're going to pay your dues on. And as you progress in the industry and move forward with different projects and add more to your
you get better and better with each property.
Yeah, you get more efficient. You understand how things are done in a cost-effective manner. You start to develop relationships with your favored contractors and be able to work with them. So it just gets a little easier.
So as you've obviously been very successful and you've transformed multiple properties. When Peter Remes looks at a historic building, what are the things that attract you outside of local spaces to it? What will make your buy or no buy decision? For those of us who are, selling properties, brokers or wholesalers and whatever, what excites you and why?
I love buildings that have got great historical bones to them. I mean, we don't build buildings like we built them 100 years ago. I mean, just the architectural features, the grand spaces, the incredible volume, just these architectural nuances that have been kind of lost to modern day technology and building efficiencies. Warehouses today look very different than what they look like 100 years ago. Right, exactly. Those are the ones that I find inspiring and really intriguing, and the ones that really sort of get me excited about what I'm able to do with them in terms of reinventing them and presenting them in a different way. What
gets you excited on these projects? The vision, the capital, the finished product?
I think it's, for me, it's about transformation. Mm-hmm. I'm really interested in that topic, whether it's a human being, whether it's a building, whether it's an idea. But the idea of taking something that has been either forgotten or neglected and has just sort of been left for dead, and being able to reinvent that in a completely different way, to take the context or the feel of that building and then to represent it, spend the time and energy and resources to go and recreate it, and then present that to the neighborhood, the community, the world in a different manner when you're finished. To me, is very exciting. Don't get me wrong, economic return is really important. I borrow a lot of money from banks, and they want to know that it's going to be paid back, as I completely understand. But what's equally exciting is really the psychic dividends, being able to have people really light up and get excited about the space that they're in, for me, is really fulfilling.
One of the biggest challenges I faced in my in my artistic approach, so desire to be artistic, is the balancing act between aesthetics and the fundamental numbers. Because obviously, you have a warehouse building, you got a limited budget. $20 a foot.
Yep.
Well, anything artistic is so expensive, right? And going through buildings, well, then this is where my question is, how do you balance the functionality and the aesthetics, and what's your approach?
It's not a formula that I work through, or I don't have prescribed budgets to say I'm going to spend $100,000 on different art installations in the building. It's more guttural or more intuitive, where I just feel like if this is the right thing to do for the building. I always say, do the right thing for the property, for the building, whatever that means in terms of the improvement for the building. And I found that almost always reaching or stretching or spending the money to engage the artist or to have the installation completed or installed into the building, I can't think of a circumstance where that didn't pay off. I can't think of that where I thought to myself, I shouldn't have spent $50,000 on doing that. That was a waste of money. It didn't work out, or the response wasn't there. Almost always, I can only think of wow, that really exceeded my expectations on what that was going to deliver in terms of the response and why people want to land there. And look, it's all about, you can boil it all down to math, right? I mean, you're a developer. You understand math very well, right? You have so much money to spend. You buy a building at a basis. You have so much money to spend to improve that building. You can't overspend because then the building doesn't work, right? So what you're doing is you're competing against the marketplace.
Everybody's doing the same thing.
It's a commodity, right? How is your building in any way different than his building? Mm-hmm. Maybe it is.
The only thing you can compete on the price.
Gym. Maybe it's got a podcast studio. Those are important amenities, obviously. My approach is a little bit different. I try to create culture, an advanced culture. I want to be someone who's pushing culture forward because culture creates community. And when you create community, you now have an ecosystem. And an ecosystem wants their own like-minded people in it. It's like a club. Think of it as a club anyway. Not that it's exclusive, it's very inclusive. Creatives want more creatives in their club. So if I create the right environment where I've gone out and established, taken a building that was forgotten and built an environment that now is resonating with them and is supportive of the arts, supportive of what they're up to, and I'm not just speaking it, I'm doing it, I'm putting it on the walls, I'm embracing artistic ideas and culture, what more could they be asking for? They want to be there, and they're going to be there because they can't probably find that anywhere else.
So 17 years ago, you decide to do this, and you absolutely kill it. Question number one, have you had any challenges and obstacles that caused you a lot of pain and had you kind of failed in this? Because it sounds like you're killing it. And every project you've touched have been amazing. So have you ever any failures? And then I also want to back it up with a different question. But tell me about the failures.
Yeah, I haven't had any.
No failures at all. I was like,
too many to count. Too many to count. No, of course, yes, constant. I call them affordable failures.
All right. You're still standing.
Yes, exactly. The name of the game, right? Yes.
What's the biggest failure to date?
You know, we've run into environmental issues on a property that all of a sudden, you know, out of nowhere, the contractor comes up with something and it's a $500,000 environmental issue that's got to be paid for. And we've already been through the process. We're in mid-construction, so we've got to move forward. It's got to be dealt with. It's got to be handled. We have to write the check to pay for it. We've had construction things not go the right way. We've had contractors. I'm sorry?
Dealing with old buildings.
Yeah,
that's
right, exactly.
Thing.
Things that, you know, whether it's, I don't know what, something structurally that had to be dealt with, or roofs are a constant thing that we have to deal with. Exactly. There's just always something. It never ends. There's constant struggles. It's really, to me, more of a practice of just, you know, absorbing the issue, dealing with it, finding the right people to take care of the issue, and then moving forward and keeping your eye on the target or the goal of where I'm trying to get to. Because if you're not of the mental mindset to take this on and deal with the unexpected issues which are going to come up, I wouldn't encourage anybody to do it, because there's nothing goes in a straight line in this industry. It's really complicated, very challenging, but also incredibly exciting and dynamic and fun. And again, there's, to me, nothing better than seeing something that was completely forgotten or just, you know, doesn't show up on anyone's radar, and being able to transform that and bring it to the community. And not only does it just benefit me as the building owner or the tenants, but it starts to really generate green shoots of opportunity for the neighborhood. You start to build something, and all of a sudden you've got a building now that is, offloading these community into the neighboring spaces, and that's how things get started, and that's how neighborhoods get started and get traction, and all of a sudden they become the next Brooklyn.
The failures, in my opinion, have been kind of defining my path, and many times I felt like maybe I'm in the wrong path, maybe I'm in the wrong industry, but I also realized that the way we deal with failure determines our level of flight. And the harder the failures we face, the tougher we get. And I almost feel like the higher we soar as individuals, as entrepreneurs, as business leaders. And so when you talk about all your deals going smoothly, I'm like, wow, there's got to be some kind of an issue you deal with.
I don't think I've ever had one that went like particularly smoothly. I mean,
but no property has completely failed. Like I've sold 2 properties last year. One of them you tore at 1701.
Yeah.
I lost $250,000 on that.
Yeah.
And I was mentally exhausted from that property.
Yeah.
It was appraised at $3.5 million.
Yeah.
I sold it for $2.5 because I was just tired of it.
Yeah.
I was like,
I get it.
Forget it.
No, you get fatigued.
Yeah.
You're like, you don't want to have to revisit that. I understand.
I was like, I don't want to deal with it. It's too small. There's a lot of bigger stuff going on, and I might take a little haircut, but it's just taxing, and I couldn't refinance it. I couldn't get my money out. And with the sale, I lost $250,000, but the $1 million I got out of it, I was able to redeploy elsewhere and whatever.
Yeah, no, I think that was the right choice for you. Yeah.
So I guess I'm not the only one.
Not at all.
So 17 years ago, you were what, 45, 43?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
And out of nowhere, you launch yourself into a commercial real estate career. Who is Peter Remes before First and First, and how did you come up with all this artistic experience?
Yeah, I think the arts has been something that's been kind of a passion in my life, centered in my life for a long time. I think most of us grew up as a kid making art and doing, expressing ourselves creatively, and then probably ran into someone as an adult at the time that they were a child who said, "Oh, you're not that great at that. You shouldn't do that." And they sort of reset our thinking or our engineering in our brains to say, "Okay, let's focus on objectives, goals, and efficiencies and productivity, as opposed to creativity."
Creativity.
Yeah.
And artisticism.
And I don't separate those two. I think they go hand in hand. I think that renovating a project to me is as much of an artistic endeavor as it is a business endeavor or a goal or an objective, to a place to get to. I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it or if I didn't have fun in the process along the way. I would never take on a project that was just a straight, a boring strip center. Not to be critical of the category, I'm sure they're amazing, but
I love those. But I guess there's no artistic expression.
No,
there's just
not.
There's
not. Not that there couldn't be. Not that there couldn't be, and somebody will figure that out. But I think, look, if you look at society, you look at our the way we were raised in the last couple of generations, it's all been about productivity and efficiency. And you look at the office building that was built, office buildings that were, spaces rather, that were built in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s. It's unbelievable. It's unconscionable. It's a disaster. What were they thinking? Really, you're going to stick these people in these cube farms, give them a computer, and let them go to work and suffer every day of their lives? That is unbelievable to look back on that. Now, that's gone today. That's no longer a practice in modern day office environments or culture. But I think that, thank God, that has evolved to a point now where people are able to go to an environment, most people, maybe not all, obviously, but people are able to go to an office environment and really feel immersed in something that can activate their brain and activate their creativity, which is much more of a solution orientation or a solution-driven method for solving problems, as opposed to just being regimented in this space where you've got really no physical space to operate in. Collaboration isn't really encouraged, and you are just stuck in what you do. That, to me, was, again, a product of the post-industrial revolution, and that's what we wanted workers to just grind it out.
20 years prior to you starting commercial real estate.
Yeah.
That's basically take you from 25 to 45.
Yeah.
What does Peter Remes do on a daily basis, and how did it get you ready for a real estate career?
My senior year in college, I had the idea of starting a billboard company, and I put together the concept, wrote the plan for doing that. I had no money, no real idea how I was going to do this, but was able to just scrape together a little bit of money from a sympathetic grandmother who felt sorry for me, I think. And I got started. I had a friend who owned a very small machine shop in St. Paul, and I would use his machine shop in the evenings and fabricate these billboard components to be able to build a sign. And I would physically go out there, I had a little pickup truck, go out there, dig the hole, round up a couple of buddies, and we'd physically build the sign, the billboard, and put the pole in there and put the apparatus on it and raise the sign face up. It was like Stone Age level of construction, but it got done.
And then you sold it.
And I would rent it out. Yes, exactly. So I started very super modestly, super slowly. I was 23 years old at the time. Built that up. Went through. The dominant billboard company in the marketplace at that time was a company called Nagley Outdoor Advertising. They were the largest privately owned billboard company in the world, happened to be headquartered here in Minneapolis. I got involved. There were some things that they were doing, some nefarious activities they were trying to do to put me out of business.
So they were competition?
Very much so, yeah. I got involved in a crazy lawsuit against them, suing them for antitrust and tortious interference, which went on for about 4 years. So it felt like I got my law degree during the process. We ended up litigating, or working our way to litigation, I should say. And about a week before trial, we settled the case. And
they paid you?
Yeah, they awarded me about $150 50 of their billboards and paid my legal fees.
You actually took over 150 billboards from them. Nice, congratulations.
Yeah, it worked out.
That made you were 23 at the time, or was it later?
I was 23 when it started. Let me think about this. I was 25 when it started, and I think by the time I was wrapped up, I was 29.
Wow, so 4-year battle and 150 billboards. That's a huge win for a 25-year-old kid.
Yeah, it worked out.
That's awesome.
Didn't feel like it at the time because it was so, I don't know if you've ever been in litigation or not, but there's nothing fun and enjoyable about it. It's that said, I feel like I got my law degree going through the process. It was very, very difficult. They had obviously a monster law firm on their side. Money didn't matter.
But you proved that they were doing some nefarious things.
It worked out really well and in my favor. And once I got uncoiled from that litigation, I was able to focus on really running my business. And I spent about the next 10 years identifying small market billboard companies throughout the Midwest. I bought about 10 or so companies. I would clean them up, bring them in modern day technology to the operations. Many of them hadn't really
So then you built this company.
Yeah.
And then you exited the company.
Yep.
Are you at liberty to disclose how much you sold the company for before you got into real estate?
It was a nice deal. It was 8 figures. You can let your mind.
Well, here's the thing. So everybody knows you in town, right?
Yeah.
We have to add some numbers, and you don't have to answer those questions. Yeah. But the success of our enterprise, everybody likes to story of like numbers and whatever. So I might ask you, what is the size of the portfolio? 300,000 square feet. What is the monetary size of the portfolio? You can just say, 100 million or whatever.
Yeah.
Those numbers will, like on a national level, because here you're a celebrity, but nobody knows you in, let's say, Iowa or in Ohio and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and you don't have to answer them, but you say, hey, it sold 20 years ago. Who cares?
Yeah.
I sold the company for 10 million.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And then I took that $10 million and I have a $100 million portfolio.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, that kind of adds them.
No, I understand.
Story.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, it's logical. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So how much did you sell your company for?
I did. I sold it in July of 1999. It was about $12 million.
$12 million. Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank
and of course, you took the proceeds and then you got into real estate.
I did.
And that's how the real estate started. If you are, what's the size of your portfolio today, square footage wise?
Square footage wise, I think we're around 800,000.
800,000 square feet. That's pretty sizable. How many buildings is it?
Oh gosh, I'd have to run the math. I'm going to say probably around 12.
12 buildings.
Yeah.
Oh, that's big buildings, yeah. And I probably have an idea what the value would be for our viewers. What do you think if you were to sell everything today, and of course your properties will generate a lot of revenue, what kind of a price can you take if you sold the entire portfolio?
I'd call my friend Rafik and say, Rafik, what is it worth? Honestly,
800,000 square feet would got to be at least 100 million, but probably more because you got such amazing properties.
I honestly don't know. I don't really,
You don't think that way. You just think about art.
Not really.
Beautiful. Yeah. I have so much to learn from you. I'm so excited. After I met with you at your building, I thought a lot about who you are and how you impact real estate. I think as we're sitting here today in 2025, and we're experiencing the biggest, even though it's quiet, nobody talks about it, biggest fallout of the real estate market. A lot of these buildings are just corpses, dead carcasses that are not used. There's one right here. It's a beautiful glass building, but it's in foreclosure.
Yeah.
Now, we cannot pay the kind of basis they're asking for these properties, and $100, $200 a foot. But if we were able to pick it up for $30 to $50 and apply your magic to it, I think there is a business model brewing.
Yeah.
I think you could totally reshape the makeup of these buildings. So what do you think about that?
No question. Yeah, that's an opportunity for sure. I don't know what building you're referencing, but I mean, absolutely. People are people, right? And they live and work in their communities, and many of them still go to an office space to do what they do every day. Most of my projects are based in the urban core, but there's no reason why they wouldn't work in a suburban core or anywhere for that matter. Yep. People want to be around other people, and they want to have an environment that that resonates with them, that they respond to. Lower that basis of that building that you acquire. It gives you more opportunity to go in there and really, really make the transformation that it probably needs. Overpaying for something or buying something at retail, you're kind of stuck. You can't really do much with it unless you can move the leases up and really write new leases at new numbers, which is really difficult to do.
I think outside of the price, you got to draw them in with what you got going on. You know what I mean? Which is a allure and community and culture.
Yeah.
One of the ideas that I have, which we're going to explore, is to create community event spaces out of these towers. We have a 110,000 square foot tower under contract.
Yeah.
It's a 10-story or 11-story tower. beautiful Victorian building in St. Louis.
Nice.
$2.7 million purchase price.
Nice.
And it's zoned live work, which is basically our fallback if we fail in converting office into better, like a community office.
Sure.
Just convert into housing.
Yeah.
But 2 stories on the main floor where used to be bank.
Yeah.
You got ceilings that are 20-foot marble all over. It's absolutely spectacular. But the older is 80 years old, and he's not going to spend any money, and he's selling it at a 10 cap to us. So I would be very, very curious as to how you would analyze that building and put it back together. But there's buildings like that all over.
No, there are. Absolutely. They're all over America.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have fallen out of their intended use, and they've either been held in a sort of a interim use of just low rent, cheap space, and an owner that doesn't really care or doesn't really understand the market and what he or she would need to do to really bring the market of that building up. So oftentimes that building really needs to leave that owner's hands for anything to happen.
Because they're undercapitalized, they're tired, and they are at a different basis. So for them, they're not in the constructive creating spirit.
No.
They're in the defense. I want to get as much money as possible and get out of here
100%.
Spirit.
Yeah, and I don't blame them. Look, as a seller, I would want the most money I can get for a building too. But I think it's a different mindset completely. It's a mindset. It's not like, oh, I'll just start to create this and do this. You have to really take your thinking and apply it in a completely unconventional manner. Many of them came from a generation where that conventional thinking got them to where they got to, but now it doesn't work anymore.
One thing that I also noticed about your approach is, as opposed to just being a landlord like we are, you also put businesses in these buildings.
Yeah.
You've done event spaces.
Yes.
You now have a most successful pickleball court in Midwest. Congratulations.
Thank you for that.
And what other businesses have you done that occupied your own buildings?
Yeah, I mean, those have been the 2 higher profile ones, like Lucky Shots, Pickleball, and Aria, the event center. Started a new one in a building in St. Paul, the old James J. Hill Library. We're going to be opening an event center in there yet this year. If there's an opportunity that I feel that I can get my arms around and really take on the opportunity and deliver something to the market that's going to be better than anything else that I can find on the market, I'm going to do it. If I can't do that, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to be second fiddle to anyone. I don't want to be like the event center that you'd call because you have a limited budget. I want to be the event center that you go to because this is the most fantastic event center on the planet, or at least in the Midwest. I want to be there. I don't care what it costs.
See, that's a beautiful. See, one thing that is different between your approach and our approach. We are all about value approach. So everything we do is geared towards capturing that Walmart customer.
Yeah.
And for me, it's always been, well, it's a safe bet. And when the market tanks, I'm not the highest guy in town, I'll be able to survive.
Yep.
But it kind of gives me a whole different perspective because I'll always have to charge less because I don't have that artistic and mindset, really.
Yeah.
And so thank you for that. I'm definitely evolving, hanging out with you to really become a better real estate developer.
Well,
so this is
two-way street, right back at you.
Awesome, thank you. Another question I have is, you have this beautiful project at 1515 Central Avenue. You just picked it up.
Yeah.
What is it, 75,000 square feet?
Yeah, about 78,000.
78,000. You paid $5.1 million for it. The guy before you took a bath on it. They bought it for $7.5 million.
Yeah.
I think the group out of Chicago.
Yeah.
What are your plans for that building, and how do you see that building evolve over the what you told me was so exciting. I don't know if you can talk to how you're going to reposition that property.
Yeah, we closed on that just about a month ago, and we're looking to now reinvent the building and bring in. It was purpose built as I don't know if you saw the Van Gogh experience.
Yeah, I read that with my wife.
Yeah, it was nice. I enjoyed it. Yeah,
tall ceilings. Everything's awesome.
Exactly. So it was purpose built for the space inside was purpose built for that exhibition, and they left about I think a year and a half, 2 years ago or so. I would like to move a business into that space that has some sort of an entertainment concept. Maybe it's immersive experience, maybe it's a music component, maybe it's a hybrid of both, where you've got a room that would be live music, concerts, a F&B component. There'd be a restaurant of sorts. The immersive thing could be another piece of it that works co-joined with the other one. So you've got music and immersive, and if you want to do both, you can do that. A social space for events, parties, corporate, etc. I think the building is just perfectly built for that. And that's kind of the path I'm on right now, in engaging with a bunch of different people and different ideas along those lines.
Do you think it's going to be like Aria 2.0?
Aria was so uniquely
Positioned.
specific and beautiful and one of a kind.
Very
building.
underparked. This one is not
Yes,
underparked. Yeah.
yes, exactly. That said, I think some of the same sort of energy could be there, but it's just a very, very different building.
Got it.
Yeah.
You're not that old, but I'm going to ask the question about legacy.
Yeah.
Okay. What legacy do you hope to leave with or through First and First?
Yeah. Good question. I honestly don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. It's really more about, to me, advancing culture, really being a person that really dedicated his time through his practice to be able to move ideas forward. And when I say culture, I don't mean exclusively the arts. I mean, I look at artists in a wide-ranging bandwidth. I think a great chef is an artist. I think a great bartender is an artist. I think writers are artists. I think
a great real estate investor is an artist too.
100%. Andy Warhol said making money is the highest form of art, and I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
So being engaged in projects with people that sort of share these sentiments and have this sort of a mindset is something that I find incredibly stimulating and enjoyable.
Awesome. So you want to leave a legacy of, my statement is every building we touch, we leave better than we found.
Yeah.
Your statement is going to be more advanced. Every building that Peter touches, and why don't you finish that statement?
Every building that we touch, we want, if there's one word that would describe our projects, it would be transformation.
Transformation.
Yeah.
Cool.
And if you look at, not to get too deep into it, but if you look at somebody who undergoes a spiritual transformation or a transformation of just who they are as a person, maybe they were a broken individual and they, didn't believe in themselves and they had struggled to get their life together and they finally were able, however they did it, to come out on the other side of that and really be somebody that is a productive member of society and building a career path that is exciting and who knows, you fill in the blanks for whatever you want to, whatever attributes you'd want to apply that. I think that's really kind of the reason why we were here on this planet is to be able to help each other out a little bit and to be able to take something that isn't functioning and bring it into a new environment, a new light, and watch it thrive.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Beautiful. So outside of work, outside of creating beautiful spaces, who is Andy? What are your three passions that you spend time reading, traveling? I mean,
all the above. I love reading, love traveling. The arts are a big part of my life. I've been on the board of the Walker Art Center here, based in Minneapolis for about 17 or 18 years. I'm very involved over there. I have a lot of relationships with people in the arts, in the industry globally, not just locally. So I spend a good deal of time looking at art, thinking about art. Many of my ideas come from the art world. I'm able to find, just a studio visit or a conversation with an artist friend sometimes will just unlock something in my head to be able to say, oh my gosh, I hadn't thought about it that way. I'm going to try this or I'm going to do this. So yeah, I'm never lacking for things to do or people to talk to or places to go. I wish I could get to experience more of the things I want to do, but I've got a pretty full, busy life, and it's just I'm very grateful for it.
What is the book that you've read in the past 3 to 5 years that had a most transformational impact on you?
Your Brain on Art.
Your Brain on Art.
Yeah.
Who's it by?
Susan Magsamen and Ivy Ross, collaboration, two of them. Yeah, I'd love to go see them speak somewhere. I need to find out where that's going to happen. They're pretty active on the circuit, but they have taken the neurosciences of art and really distilled it in a language that people like myself can understand. Highly encourage you to read it, or anybody out there interested in that topic. But it really talks about creativity and how much creativity has been swept aside, and we have now just moved into a culture that doesn't really embrace it or endorse it, and how much that, they talk about how we as human beings we're looked at as thinking beings learning to feel when we really are feeling beings learning to think.
I see. That's right. That's very, very, very
I
true.
think those attributes, which are available and accessible to all of us are so critical. And I think what I've done in building my portfolio is just apply some of those. I didn't learn about the book till about 6 months ago, so I have a copy of it. I'm into reading it right now, but I think it's just a very important, I'll call it a guidebook, and they've taken this data and they've taken like real life examples of how this really is transformative.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Definitely going to read that book.
And I've got hard line example. I sold a portfolio of buildings about 2017, 2018, pre-pandemic, and CB did the underwriting on the portfolio, and they had their analysts go through. We had hundreds of leases that all had to be analyzed. You know the drill. You've been through it numerous times. And I remember meeting with them, and they had the spreadsheet of all the leases, and they said, well, there's a problem. And I said, oh, what's the problem? And they said, well, the TI analysis it must be off. I said, what do you mean? What do you mean must be off?
Tenant improvements, TI.
Yeah, tenant improvement allowance. And they said, well, it's an average of $2.15 a foot. And I said, oh, that's more than I wanted to spend, but that's accurate. And they were like, what are you talking about?
Doesn't reflect how it looks.
They were like, what are you talking? How could it be $2.15 a foot? And I said, that's what we've spent on TI allowances. Nice. And they were just dumbfounded how we could get there without having to spend the money on tenant improvement allowances. But what wasn't told in that story was we didn't abide by that or subscribe. I was new to the industry. I didn't really even understand what a TI allowance was.
Makes sense.
Why would I write a check? Why would I pay you $100,000 to come to my building and you're going to spend it on your space?
Because that's how the industry works, and brokers got to get paid these kind of commissions.
Exactly. So we just never participated in it. And what we did do, though, was focus on building a unique ecosystem
that draws people in.
Really resonated with potential tenants. And they said, oh, my God, I don't care if I don't get TI. I want to be here.
Right, I want to sit here.
And case after case after case of brokers that would come in, show our buildings. I remember one specifically at Vandalia Tower, a big 220,000 square foot building we did over on right off of Interstate 94 in Vandalia. We had a foundation that was moving in there, and the broker toured us through, and we were chatting, and they said, okay, well, the TI allowance was, I think the range was like $60 to $70 a foot. And I just said, well, we're not doing that. And they said, well, you're going to lose a deal. I said, well, that's fine. We'll
find somebody else.
We'll move on, right? Well, they came in anyway. The tenant did. They signed the lease.
And they
wanted to be there. They paid.
So you got that emotional response. They're like, we're not going anywhere. Forget it. We'll spend $40 ourselves.
And it's really, okay, so why did they do that? Why do you think they did that?
Because you grabbed their emotion, because you got them excited about being there.
So to me, it's all about identity as a human being.
Right.
Like your identity, my identity, like the green sweater you're wearing. You didn't just grab that off the shelf. You thought about how you wanted to present today, right? Okay, so your identity is an important thing to you, and as it is to me, as it is to these guys. Yeah. And the identity of a tenant that might be looking to land in their building is very important to them. They want to be seen in a particular fashion, a particular manner.
It's almost like putting an item of clothing on.
Sort of.
Right.
Yes. So. Yeah. And what that means to the entrepreneur who's going to sign that lease is, okay, how am I going to create an environment where my employees are going to want to come here and stay here? They're going to feel welcomed and comfortable, and this is a cool spot, amazing energy. I love the amenities, I love the coffee shops, I love the brewery, I love the co-tenants. Oh, this guy's down the hall, he's super cool, I love him.
Nice.
That is all based on identity, and everybody has it. Conventional landlords have forgotten what that even means.
Because they focused on mathematics.
They focused on math.
Economics.
It's a race to the bottom. We'll give you this. We'll buy your lease. We'll give you $120 a foot.
You're competing with a bunch of other buildings that are very similar.
Exactly. I can't win at that game. Yeah. I can't play it because I'll lose every time. I can't be the low-cost provider. What have I got? I've just got cheap space.
Right.
So what? I want you to feel something. I want you to come here and go, holy shit. Can awesome. I say that?
Yeah.
This is amazing. I don't even know what I'm experiencing here, but I love this. I don't think about art, but I love this.
Yeah, I'm not an artist, but I'd really love to be hanging out here.
Exactly.
That's the reaction I experienced when I came to your building. I was like, what is this?
Right.
I couldn't like marvel at like, and everything was put together so amazingly. It was, I felt like I was in the Alice in the Wonderland
You were.
show, right?
You were, right? No, I mean, look, all of this is our stage sets, right?
That's
Every
amazing.
bit of it. This is a stage set that we're sitting in. Like, you create an environment, and it either works well or it works not so well.
Yeah.
And the ones that work well have this thing that you and I can't describe,
Right.
but it's a pull.
I think that could be the solution to our big office problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fascinating. I'm definitely taking a lot of mental notes. What's the best piece of advice you've received in your real estate career?
Oh boy, don't overpay.
Don't overpay?
Yeah.
Because we get, as an artist, I'm sure you more than me, get excited about the building what could happen.
Oh yeah, it's easy to spend money,
yeah,
right?
but you gotta get it
I
back.
mean, look, anybody can spend money, lots of it, and look, there's a support around you. I'm not knocking architects or designers, whatever, but it's easy spending somebody else's money, and it's fun, it's enjoyable. I am incredibly diligent, and I try to make every dollar do the work of 10. Yeah, I really do.
Awesome.
I try to get things done as efficiently as possible because I don't care what your budget is, you're going over it. It's going to cost more than you think.
If you had an opportunity to meet yourself 20 years ago, just sold a company, got a lot of money, and about to launch himself in a real estate career, what advice would you give that person, that guy? What advice would you give him?
Yeah, I would say, the core fundamentals of some of which we've already discussed, I would say keep those very close to you. Don't lose sight of that. But buy everything that you think makes sense. And whether it's partnering or various forms of finance or whatever, just buy what you can and try to figure it out as quickly as possible. And don't get intimidated by market cycles or
because you were too scared at the time, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, who knows, right? I mean, it's just, I wasn't occurring to me 20 years ago I should be out buying commercial buildings. It kind of came to me after that. But I think that if you buy judiciously, if you don't overpay, and that can be a moving target sometimes, you will probably have a higher chance of success, and you're probably going to be just fine.
All right.
My goal when I'm looking at identifying a property, any property, anywhere, my goal is to buy that property for the price of zero.
Right.
That's my goal.
How is that possible?
That's my goal. I've never gotten there, but that's my goal.
All right. So you got basically pay as little as possible.
Absolutely.
See,
absolutely.
Our whole paradigm is to buy as much real estate as possible without putting any money out of our pocket.
Yeah.
But use the power of time value of money principle to work to our advantage.
Sure.
So here's an example. The guy wants $2 million for a property that is worth $1.8 million. Well, how do you buy a property for $2 million when it's appraised for $1.8 million and make any money?
Yeah.
And we actually closed on the transaction and made $700,000 profit. And all as a result of us creating a situation where the seller carried $900,000 against a different property at 3% interest only for 10 years.
Wow.
And when you use that, and we bought this property in 2019, we then turn around and sold it to a owner user. Seller financed it.
Yeah.
So we seller finance bought it, seller finance sold it. An owner user is old. He doesn't care about economics. He just wants to use it for his business.
Exactly. Yeah.
For $2.7 million.
Yep.
So we use a lot of that.
Yeah.
So for me, buying it for zero sounds impossible unless Citi will just give it to you. But buying it with no money out of pocket and creating a situation where it positively cash flows,
Yeah.
that's an art that I subscribe to. And I love that game.
Yeah, when I'm being facetious when I say buy it for zero. I don't expect anybody to sell their building for zero. But that it just sort of clears the air in terms of what, like I'm just not a person that's going to overpay for anything. Mm-hmm. It's not in me. I'm not hardwired that way. I've seen people do it and they've had success doing it. And again, what seems like they're overpaying for in 5 years looks like a steal. So I think that there are people smarter than I am that are able to do that and come out of it just fine.
So advice to yourself is not to be scared and just to buy a property as long as it makes sense and not worry about the big picture issues. That makes sense. Is there a quote that resonates with you and kind of a big part of your identity?
Oh boy. Oh gosh.
And if you don't have an answer, we don't have to do it. But if you think about the quote, one thing that was fascinating about my meeting you for the first time we talked about a lot of deep psychology.
Yeah.
Talked about philosophy.
Yeah.
Because I'm a philosopher and I think about like a internal state of our conscious and subconscious mind and controlling the animal within.
Yeah.
So I've really liked our deep conversation, and we never connected again for, I don't know, a year or something.
Yeah, that was your fault.
Yeah, it's my fault. Just buying too many buildings, flying around too much. But anyhow, so the quote, any kind of a quote that comes to you, and if it comes to you, you can tell me later. Well, Peter, thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, of course.
It was fascinating to share this podcast with you and get some questions answered.
Enjoyed it immensely.
I really admire your approach to real estate. I think you're definitely a maverick in the industry. And if there's anything I can do to learn, my main thing is to find a way to add value.
Yeah.
Because if your artistic expression will rub off on me and then it will rub off on all of our properties, I think outside of just, dollars and cents, I think the fulfillment piece will be so much better.
Yeah.
And I take pride in the properties we own.
Yes.
And so for me, what you're doing is just next level of excellence. I think that if I play in the level of excellence or try to be, you are at the level of genius, which is a step above excellence. And to me, when I met you, when I saw what you're doing, I was like, this is just next level of this Jumanji, right? And I have a feeling monetizing on your art with the buildings that we can have, but also bringing your talent into the United States market outside of Minnesota.
Yeah.
I'd love to sign up and fly around and be my sort of a partner on these properties we're working on.
No, thank you for that. No, very kind of you, by the way. That's very flattering.
I mean it from the bottom of my heart.
No, I appreciate it. Really do. Thank you so much. First of all, it's just awesome to get to know you too over the last year or so. And I really admire what you're up to. I mean, you're really just you're biting off big chunks of life by taking these buildings down and taking these projects. Well, look, I know firsthand, none of this is easy. Like, it's a real grind to be able to, buy something, get it under control, close on it, and then the work starts from there. So I do really have a ton of respect for what you're doing and what you're creating. I just feel like, there's tons of symmetries here and tons of common ground that we share. And I think that there's all kinds of potential out there to do things in a way that really haven't been done before in a broader sense. I mean, there might be somebody doing it in a certain market or whatever, but I feel like, what you saw when you toured Lucky Shots, I mean, that was something that I did, and had a lot of fun creating and building it and curating it and designing it. And there's no pickleball club in the world that looks like that today. Nowhere, anywhere. And what people may not understand is it has nothing to do with pickleball.
Yes, absolutely.
It has everything to do with people.
And the expression and the feeling.
Yes.
And so, like I said, selfishly, we were working on 2 pickleball courts, and we were just kind of struggling with attendance.
Yeah.
And without getting a commitment from you, I went ahead and canceled both.
Yeah.
And I'd love to invite for you to come in and maybe curate or partner or maybe franchise that.
No, we should look at those.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I will basically get an airplane, we'll fly out there, and I would love for you to kind of see both the spaces. And I think pickleball court in those 2 properties and Lakewood too, I think will be a beautiful venue for that. I think that'll be an amazing opportunity for us to collaborate.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow.
Thank you for coming.
Of course.
Really had a pleasure having you and very inspired by you. And for those of you, if you want to learn more about Peter, his company is called First and First. You can find it on Instagram. It is First and First on Instagram. And also DM me for any questions you might have. Love to answer them and give you any kind of feedback. I guess I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.